Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Gittin Daf Ein Daled Amud Aleph 74A1. We're just going to start on 73 on the bottom, the last 3 lines, the 2 dots. Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Beraita. Yamim Shebenatayim, during the days between the giving over the get and the death of the husband. You remember yesterday that we learned there was a machloket. What happens in between the husband comes and he gives the get to the wife. And he says, this is your get if he's going to die, but until if he doesn't come back within the 12 months or whatever the case is. Now, in between those days, what is she? So we had a whole bunch of balagan. Is she an eshetish? Is it a safek eshetish? What happens if they have relations with her on purpose? If they have relations with her accidentally? Says now the Gemara, the days in between, bala zakai b'metziata. The husband is going to be zocher in anything that she finds, just like usually. Anything that she works, or her salaries. To do afarat nedarim. V'yorsha. He will even inherit her if she dies. Okay? Umetamela says on the top of Ayin Daled Amud Aleph, he becomes tameh to her if he's a kohen and she dies. Klalo shel davar, the general rule is harei ki ishto lechol davar. She's 100% his wife. Ela she'ena tzricha imena get sheni, but she does not need another get if he dies. Right? Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, these are the words of Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says, Bilata truya. What does it mean, Bilata truya? Until he dies or he gets up from the sickness, which means if he dies, so whoever had relations with her is patur. Because according to Shitat Rabbi Meir, when he says Me'et shani ba'olam, it means from the time of the netina and not from the closest time from the death. And therefore, if he dies, the t'nai was kayam, and therefore lemafrea retroactively, she wasn't a married woman. So therefore, it comes out that if she fooled around in between one, and meaning like the getting of the get, and him dying, that biyah is truya. We're waiting. If all of a sudden he gets up from his sickness, or whatever, he doesn't die, or whatever it is, she gets killed, and all the other things. But if not, then she's patur.
He gave her the get, and she received the get.
Yes. So we had Shitat Rabbi Yehuda, right? The what? It's a mamash. She's an eshetish for everything. Shitat Rabbi Meir, that it depends. Depends if he's actually going to get up or not. Third Shitat Rabbi Yosef Omer, Bilata Safek, not Truya, it's a Safek. Because when it says Me'et Shani Ba'olam, right, it's mashma that it's maybe Sha'achat Samuchunita, and therefore we have a Safek. What's going to happen over here? Is she Be'emet a Grusha or not a Grusha? And therefore it's an Asham Talui. Okay? And if he doesn't die, so then the get wasn't Hechal, and then she was an Eshetish Gemura. Right? And then mamash, it's like an eshetish. Chachamim come and say, megureshet ve'ena megureshet, uvilvad sheyamut. It's a safek eshetish. That's what it means. Megureshet ve'ena megureshet, and therefore it's an asham talui. Uvilvad sheyamut. But as long as he dies. But if he doesn't die, there's nothing what to talk about. Meaning this is only in a case where the husband does die. But if he doesn't die, she was never divorced. It's according to everybody. So the Gemara is going to ask, one second. Let's just try to recap one more time.
Yes.
Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, she's a married woman. Right? 100% married woman. Chazak u'baruch. Rabbi Meir comes in and says, Bilata tluya. It's depending. Rabbi Yosef says, Bilata safek. It's a doubt. And Chachamim says, she's divorced or not divorced. What's the difference first between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yosef? Whether you say bilata truya or bilata safek. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan says Hasham talui kabinayim. The difference between them is Hasham talui. What does that mean? According to Rabbi Meir, right, you're not going to bring in Hasham talui. Why? Because he's going to be patur legamre. Because when he says me'et shani ba'olam, it means mishat netina. And according to Rabbi Yosef, mighty Hasham talui. You're going to bring in Hasham talui. Yeah? Yeah? Then he says v'chachamim omrim. Chachamim come and he says, yeah, megureshet ve'ena megureshet. What does it mean, megureshet ve'ena megureshet? He says, Chachamim, right, is the same as Rabbi Yosef then. One more time. According to Rabbi Meir, when Rabbi Meir came and he said, Bilata truya, it's talui. But it's not that behemet, it's an asham talui. Why? Because that's it, right? He comes and he says, but, right, when we're talking about now Rabbi Yosef, he's going to bring an asham talui. Now he comes and he says, but according to Chachamim, megureshet ve'ena megureshet is the exact same thing as Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef is saying it's a masafek. What is megureshet? She's divorced and not divorced. What does that mean? Also safek. So what's the difference between Chachamim and Rabbi Yosef? Answers the Gemara. Ike benayu de Rabbi Zera. The difference between them is a Bizera. The Amar Bizera, Rabbi Shmuel, says a Bizera, name Rabbi Miriam and name Shmuel. Kol makom shamru chachamim megushet b'mureshet. The difference is, does he have to give her parnasa or not? Meaning, according to Shitad of Rabbi Zera, and that's a machloka between them, when you use the terminology, the husband has to give her parnasa still. He still has to support her. Why? Because we're not really sure, be'emet, if she's divorced or not divorced. According to Rabbi Yosef, he doesn't hold of Rabbi Zera here, because he's just saying that really be'emet, he's patur from giving women zimot. He doesn't have to give a thing. The only thing is what's going to happen on the relations. So therefore, bilata safek. But does he have to actually support her? We give her the get. That's it. But when is the get chal? That's the entire question. According to Chachamim, when you say megureshet, it means that you still have to come and you still have to support her. Okay? Says the Mishnah in Dalet Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah 74a. The Mishnah. This is a good one. He comes and he says, you know what? This is your get on condition. You have to give me 200 zuz. You have to pay me to give you the divorce.
Smart guy.
Yeah, it's very smart. Yeah. Harezo megoreshet. She's going to be divorced. V'titen. And she has to give the money. Yeah, it's a good divorce, but she has to give the money. Al menat shetitni li mikam ve'ad 30 yom. However, though, what happens if he says, this is your get on condition that you give me the 200 zuz within 30 days? So therefore, if she gives it to him within the 30 days, megureshet. And if not, she's not going to be divorced. Meaning that there was a condition. You have 30 days to pay out. Within the 30 days, she paid up. It's a good divorce. If it was after the 30 days, she lost out. It's not a good divorce.
When she divorced, at the time that she gave
one second. Says the Gemara, Amar Ashbag, says the Rishon Gamliel, Masechet Betzidon. There was a story in Sidon. Somebody went and he told his wife, what happened? He went and he told her, you know what? This is your divorce on condition that you give me back my coat. And she lost the coat. Amru Chachamim, says the Chachamim, Titel lo dameha, give the money, meaning the value of the coat, and that's going to be instead. That's going to be instead. Right? Okay, fine. So he comes and he says, right? And that's going to be Mekayem the Tanai. Says the Gemara, my vetiten. What does it mean, vetiten? At the end of the day, okay, she's going to give the money. But when is the Girushin going to be chal? When is the Girushin going to take into effect? So says the Gemara, Ravuna says, Vehititen. What does it mean, Vehititen? When it's mitkayem the Tnai, then the Girushin are going to be chal lemafrea. Because when he says al menat, it's on condition. What does it mean when you fulfill the condition? So she gave, that means he didn't put a condition when to give him the 200 zuz. Right? He just says you have to give me 200 zuz. If she gave it to him after a day, she's divorced. Right? As we said. If it's going to be after a week, after a month, whenever she fulfills the condition, then it's going to be, right, that it's going to be mikayem, right, the get, which means v'titen. Yeah? So when she fulfills the condition, then it's going to be chal lemafrea from the time that she got the get. Rav Yehuda comes and he says, no, lichshetiten, not vehititen. Lichshetiten means when she gives the money, now she's divorced. Meaning, she gave the money a week later, she only got divorced a week later. A month later, a year later, whenever she gave the money, right? No, there is a date on it. There's always a date on the get. But when is the get chal? Machloke between Ravuna and Rav Yehuda. Ravuna says it's a condition, but once you fulfill the condition, it goes back retroactively to the original date when he gave her the get. And according to Rav Yehuda, no. When you give it, now it's the divorce. As we saw yesterday, exactly. Same machloket.
Yeah, it's continuation.
Same machloket. Same machloket.
It doesn't matter if it goes rich.
So my benayhu, what's the difference between the opinion of Ravuna and Rav Yehuda? What happens if, right, the get was torn or lost before she gave the money? Ravuna says, v'hititen, and therefore she doesn't need a second get. Why? Because the get was a good get. And then when she gave the money, retroactively, it shows that was a good get. But according to the Yehuda, it's only when she gives the money, is it considered a good get? So now if it got lost or stolen, she needs a new get. That's the difference between the two different opinions. Utzna nami. Then we also learned in a Mishnah. The gabe kiddushin kai gavna, to do with kiddushin, the same thing. The Tanam is we learned in a Mishnah kiddushin. If a man comes and he tells a woman, you're going to be married to me. Al menat she'etel lach 200 zuz. As long as I'm going to give you 200 zuz. She's married. V'yiten, and then he gives it to her. V'yiten will say, what does it mean v'yiten? The same machloket. Rav Huna says v'yiten, meaning when he gives the money, she's mekudeshet lemafreya retroactively. And according to Rav Yehuda, lechshiten, when he gives the money, that's when it's going to be the kiddushin. So the exact same machloket to do with gittin is to do with kiddushin. Okay? Says the Gemara, my benau. What's the difference between the two deot? What happens if she receives kiddushin from another guy? According to Rav Huna, that he says v'huiten tzna be'almahu. It's a tnai, and therefore he wasn't ma'akev the kiddushin until when he was mekayim the tnai, and therefore mekayim tnai v'azi. He's mekayim the tnai, and then that's it. And the kiddushin is chalem afreya. But according to Yehuda, when he says lechshiten lechiyahiv lahu kiddushin, only when he gives her the money, that's when it's kiddushin. Hashalom kiddushin, but right now it's not kiddushin. So she accepted kiddushin from somebody else in between. She's married to the second guy, according to the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Utzricha, and we need both cases. We need the case also by kiddushin and also by kiddushin. Why? Right? Also, Girushin is Gittin. Yeah, and Kiddushin. Girushin is Gittin. No, Girushin and what's it called? And Kiddushin. But if we're going to come and we're going to learn by Kiddushin, here in this case, Rav Huna says that he has to give it. Because he's trying to bring her closer. So it makes sense, the svara of Rav Huna, that since he wants to bring her closer, it doesn't make sense that he's trying to distance her. If he wants to get married to her, and now he says on condition he's going to give her 200 zuz. So now what? He's trying to bring her closer to get married to her, but then he's saying, no, but you're really distanced until I give you the money? Doesn't make sense. If I'm bringing her closer, she's already close. Okay, I give you a tonight. You're right, I'm going to give you money. And therefore you're going to be married. But that's by kiddushin. But to do with girushin, he says, you're coming and you're distancing her. Maybe Bemet Rav Huna, he agrees to Rav Yehuda. Because at the end of the day, if he's distancing her, so that means the get is only going to be chal when he's going to pay up. Because a person doesn't want to go so quickly and start divorcing his wife. So that's why you have to bring down also by the case of the girushin. If it was only written by girushin, here Rav Huna is coming and saying, why? Because the man is not mitbayesh to ask for the money. So therefore, I'm going to come and I'm going to say that if a person's going to find himself in a condition of the girushin or kiddushin, mistama, he wants that the maaseh will come immediately. And not that it's going to come later on, right? Because he wants to be mizarez tonight. So therefore, in a case of girushin, you don't need ziruz. Because the man is not embarrassed to ask for the money because he's divorcing her. And therefore, he's going to tell her, pay up. He's divorcing her. He says, but to do with kiddushin, the exact opposite. She's embarrassed to ask for the money. If a woman just gets married to a man, she's not going to come and start demanding, by the way, you told me you're going to give me 200 zuz. If not, we're calling this off. You understand? She's embarrassed to ask for the money. So therefore, maybe he's going to be modeh to Rav Yehuda. So because of that, right, that's why we said that we needed both cases. Now, if you're going to tell me that this was the case by Kiddushin, in this case, so you said to Rabbi Yehuda, because what? Because she's embarrassed to ask for the money. The man is not embarrassed to ask for the money to divorce her. Maybe Rabbi Yehuda agrees to Rav Huna. If we're going to come now and we're going to speak about Girushin, in this case, where the Rav Yehuda is going to say that he's trying to distance her. But to do Kiddushin, he's coming to bring her closer. Maybe man, this is going to be modeh to Rav Huna. So that's why he comes and he says Sricha. That's why he comes and he says we need both cases. Capish? Okay. Meitbe, we're going to ask the following question. Again, the Braita comes and he says, this is your get on condition you give me 200 zuz. Even though it got torn or was lost, she's going to be divorced. But she's not allowed to get married to somebody else until she gives the money. So you see from here, though, that this Braita is a stira to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda came and he said that if it got torn or lost, it's not divorced. The Braita mefuresh, not like Rabbi Yehuda. Ve'otanya, and another Braita, the Braita says this is your get on condition. You give me 200 zuz, umet, and then he dies without children. Natsna, right? If she gave the money before he died, she doesn't have to do yibum. Lo natsna, if she didn't give it to him, she has to do yibum. Now, 1 second, it comes out that the girushin was not chal, and therefore she needs yibum. Rashbag argues and he says, no, tenet laviv, just give it to the father, or le'achiv, or to the brother, or le'echabin akrovim, or to somebody else, and therefore she was mekayim the tanai, and therefore she's megureshet lemafreya retroactively, and she's going to be ptura from yibum, and therefore since she's going to be ptura from the yibum, so therefore that's it. So the Gemara is going to now explain the question. Akan lo pligi, when is the machloket here? Ela demor savar, but Tanakama holds li velo liorshai. Meaning, when the man came and said, "This is your get on condition you give me 200 zuz," it meant you have to give me the 200 zuz, not to any of their inheritors. So he says, "Umor savar." When Rashbag comes and he holds li vafilu liorshai, even to the inheritors. The kule alma miatna have, but according to everybody, it's a good tanai. So tiyufta Rav Yehuda. So we have two different braitot which are tiyuftas to Rav Huna. Mamash questions against Rav Huna. Rav Yehuda, sorry, not Rav Huna. It's a proof to Rav Huna. It's a question against Rav Yehuda. So Amaleh Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda is going to answer you. Hamani, who is this? Rabbi. It's Rabbi. The Amar Rav Huna Amar Rabbi. He says a Huna name of Rabbi. Yeah, Kola Omer. Right? Anybody that says Almenat, ki Omer me'achshav dami. It's like you're saying it right now. Meaning, when you come and you use the terminology Almenat on condition, it means from now. And the rabbis, right? That's what it says. The Chachamim, they argue on Rabbi, and they hold that the kavanah is not that the kinyan is going to come out now. The ana de amri k'Rabbanan, and I, Rabbi Yehuda, I'm actually going to hold like Chachamim. I hold like Rabbanan. Okay, fine, very good. So Amar Bizera says Bizera, Bibavel, in Babylonia, Amrinan, we're going to say Hada Amar Rav Huna Amar Rabbi, that which Rav Huna said name Rabbi. Kula Omer al Menat, ki Omer machshav dami. Anybody that says on condition is like saying it from now. The rabbis argue on this. Okay, Kislike, when it went up to Eretz Yisrael, he found Ravasi. That he was sitting and saying the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Hakol modim beomer al menat. Everybody agrees. Meaning, if you say the words al menat, it means me'achshav. Yeah, and therefore, according to everybody, the girushin is chal. Lo nechleku ela me'ayom ulachar mita. The machloket between them is if he says me'ayom ulachar mita. From today and after death. That's the machloka between them. Right? Me'ayom v'la'achar mita. Okay? That means according to Rabbi, for sure, the husband was mitkaven to the Tanai, and the Girushin are going to be chal lemafreya, and therefore the get is going to be kasher. Right? Ayin daled mubet. Ve'atanya. So we just learned, right? In a braita, harez gitech me'ayom v'la'achar mita, get v'no get divrei chachamim, Rabbi Omer kaze get. Says, I thought we already learned this. We already learned in a braita, if you remember, that if a person says me'ayom lachar mita, it's like a double, it's like an oxymoron. Hayom means today. Lachar mita means after death. What does it mean? Right? What does that mean? It means after death, or it means today. Make up your mind. So he says, when it says, get veno get, according to Chachamim, it's a safek. But according to Rabbi, it's going to be, this is a get. So you see from here, from the fact that it says, al menat, so that's why even the Chachamim are modim, that the girushin is going to be chal from now, but on condition that he actually dies. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, that he says al menat plige ad mipalge be me'ayom lachar mita lifleg al menat. So 1 second, if you already have machloket to do with me'ayom lachar mita, also have the machloket, the same thing to do with al menat. So answers the Gemara, le'odiacha kochod Rabbi. No, we wanted to teach you the koach of Rabbi. Rabbi is so mekel that even in a case me'ayom lachar mita, Rabbi is still mekel. That's meaning we want to show you the power of the leniency of Rabbi. That Rabbi comes and he says, even in a case that he said from today and after death, it's still going to be considered a good get. So says the Gemara, why don't you say the opposite? That it's still going to be a safek, that it's not a good get. It's always better to teach you a koch of eter than koch of isur. To be machmir, everybody could be isur. Everyone could be machmir. To be mekel, you need a lot of power. And that's what you need. Okay? 2 dots. Imagine a person comes and he says, Al menat shetitni li mikamat shoshim yom. On condition that you give me a get now in 30 days. So he says, and what happens? So he said, if he gives it within the 30 days, she's going to be divorced. Says the Gemara Pshita, obviously, she fulfilled the condition. So says the Gemara, I would have thought to say, which means his hagbala was not mamash makpid. He was just trying to push her. Meaning like this, when I come and I'm going to give you a date, maybe I told you I wanted you to do it within the month just to, to give you a push. But I didn't really mean, if you're going to give me 35 days, it's going to be the same thing, or 2 months. But I wanted to give you a, lezaraza, to be mezarezota, to quicken her up, to hasten her up. Kamash Malan comes, it was mamash a condition. The condition was 30 days. Amar Rav Shimon Gamliel, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, Masechet Sidon, there was a story in Sidon. My Tana de Tani Maseh. What do we learn that we have to bring a story now? The story had nothing to do with what we're talking about. So the story has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So why in the world do we bring down a story? So says the Gemara, we were lacking part of the Mishnah, and this is the way that you have to teach it. If he told her, on condition to give me my coat, and then he was lost, right? It's telitato dafka kamala. It means dafka, you have to give it back. It's talit, the coat. The Shbag says, no, give her the money. Meaning this part of the Mishnah we were lacking. You had to add it into the Mishnah, and then you have the story. Those were the story. Give the money. Okay, fine. The Gemara now is going to bring up a safek. What's a safek? Ask Rabbi Yasi from Rabbi Yochanan. Imagine a woman comes and she says, this is your get. Her husband comes and says to his wife, this is your get on condition you give me 200 zuz. And then afterwards he says, you know what? I forgive you. What's halacha? Do we say that the t'nai was mekayem, was mekuyam, meaning that it was fulfilled because he was mochel, and therefore kilu he got the money? Or do I say she's still obligated to pay it? One more time, he comes and he says, on condition you give me 200 zuz, you're going to be divorced. After a week, he comes and he says, you know what? I forgive you. You don't have to give me the 200 zuz. Yes, for the money. For the money. So now, is she divorced immediately? Or do I say no, that he still has to come and he has to give it?
Or he says, you don't need to give me.
No, I forgive you all the money. I forgive you all the tonight.
You're still divorced.
You're divorced. 100% you're divorced. The question is she divorced because of the mechila or not? So says the Gemara, Tibay l'Rabbanan, Tibay l'Rashbag. This question, you could ask him whether in Shitat Rabbanan or whether in Shitat Rashbag. Remember, the Shitat Rabbanan and Rashbag was a machloket. Does he have to dafka give her the talit, the coat, or even the value of the coat? Now let's try to understand how. Why? Tibay l'Rabbanan. Let's start with the Rabbanan. According to the rabbis, he had to dafka give her the coat, and if she lost his coat, Gadish, there's nothing what to do. She wasn't making it tonight. I don't care if she gives you the value of the coat, right? It has to be his coat. Tibay l'Rabbanan. Akalu kaman Rabbanan hatam. When did the rabbi say over there? Ela delo achla gabah, because the husband didn't actually mochel. Aval hacha, but in our case, hakamala, he told her mechulim lach. He told her, Bemet, I forgive you. Meaning, in the case of the coat, he wasn't muchel. So she comes and she says, here's the money. He's going to say, well, what money? I wanted my coat. What do you give me money? I want my coat. Yeah? But over here, he actually said mefurash, ani muchelach. So maybe Bemet is going to be a good girushin. Oziel maybe, even according to Rashbag, that according to Rashbag, you could give the money and not the coat. Lo ka'amar ela de kamafai sele bedameh. It's only because at the end of the day, she appeased him. How does she appease him? She gave him money. She gave him money. Show me the money. Yeah? What does that mean? Aval legamre lo, but not completely nothing. Meaning, at the end of the day, if she didn't give anything, what do I care now that he was mochel? She didn't do anything. So maybe he's not. So Amar Lei, Rabbi Yochanan comes and tells Rabbi Asi, Ena megureshet. She's not divorced. She's not divorced. Why? Because vitur, meaning, right, being foregoing that which somebody owes you, is not considered that you are mekayem the tanai. You forgoed. You didn't mekayem the tanai. So HV, we're going to ask the following question. How melech havero, somebody that's going to come and he's going to tell his friend, Kuram shataneneli im iyatanotel livni kur. You're not allowed, he makes a kunam. Remember, kunamot, when we were learning the darim, we said that he comes and he makes a kunam, that what? That you're not allowed to benefit from me if you're not going to give a kur to my son. Right? Kur echad shel chitin, u'shtei chaviot shel yain, 1 kur of chitin of wheat, and 2 barrels of wine. Rabbi Meir says, asura chiten, so he's not allowed to benefit until Yashi fulfills the condition. Meaning until he doesn't give the 2 barrels of wine and the one kur of chitin, not let the benefit from the guy. Chachamim say, he could do a tanan nedarim. Ve'omer, and you could say, hareni kilu itkabalti. It's kilu I was mitkabel. Right? You say titkabal. Right? We say titkabal b'lachmim titkabal. It's not titkabel. It's titkabal. Why is it titkabal? Because kilu itkabalti. I received it. You understand? So he comes and he says, right, when a person is making the neder, he's going to show kilu is mekayim the tanai. And not like Rabbi Yochanan. So answers the Gemara, Hachiyashta, can you compare both cases? Hatam litzaura kamechaven. When the husband went and he asked her for money, he wanted to cause her suffering. He wanted to come and to cause her, right, to, how do you call this? To suffer. Yeah? He says, right, velot tzira. At the end, he didn't cause her to suffer. Hacha, but over here, mishum harvachahu. The noder was nadar only in order to gain. Velo yitzlich. And here he didn't mean it. Which means like this. His askama of the noder was that he didn't want to gain anything. Meaning like this. There's a big difference between the case of the get and the case of the kunam. The case of the get, he's divorcing his wife. And he tells his wife, you want the get? The chavol, 200 zuz. Give me $100,000. Now, why is he doing that? He wants to be metzerota. He wants to cause her to suffer. Right? So, you want it, no problem. Here, take it. But it comes with strings attached. Pay me, no problem. It's yours.
That means she asked for the divorce.
No. Even if he's giving the divorce. Even if he's coming and giving the divorce, it doesn't matter. But the concept, though, is that when he's giving the divorce, he's giving her on condition. What's the condition? She has to come and she has to pay him. Chazak baruch. What happens now in the other case, though? In the other case, he comes and he says, right, fine. But what's going to happen in a case where of the kunam? It's the case of Kunam, he didn't want to cause him to suffer. He just wanted to gain money. So he comes and he says, right, many times it happens. You know why? Because if somebody's going to ask money for himself, it's an embarrassment. But if you want to come and you want to, that your son is going to start getting a whole bunch of millions, and then he passes it along to the father, right? We see this every day in the news, yeah? Right? So all these things, that does happen, right? To ask for yourself, you're not going to do it. But there it's only harbacha. It's not causing suffering. But the case of the get, you wanted her to suffer. But the case of the thing, right, you just wanted him to gain. So there's a completely different case. So you can't compare both cases. Okay. Another machloket to do with what we just mentioned. Hau gavra damale larise. It was a person that came and told the sharecropper, Kule alma dalu tlat dalvata. All the sharecroppers, they come and they take, right? They come and they give it to drink, right? They give 3 times a year. They take 1/4. At Daliar Bata, right, you come and you give it to drink 4 times and you take 1/3, right? So therefore, he comes and he says, right? So imagine, a person comes to a sharecropper and he tells them, usually they come and they water the plants and they make it grow 3 times a year and they take 1/4 of the fruits. Because remember, sharecropper comes from the word share, crop. His salary is not money. His salary is a crop. So he comes, he's going to water the field, going to take care of everything. And then he takes 1/4 of the field, right? Of the fruits of the field. Now he comes and he makes a condition to him. What's the condition? You're going to water it 4 times a year, and you take 1/3 of the crop, which is more, bigger salary. What happened? Lesof atamitra. At the end, it started raining. You didn't have to water it. It started raining. The rain came, right? And it did everything. Yeah? So he says, Amar of Yosef, says of Yosef, Halodala. 1 second. He didn't give it to drink. So if he didn't give it to drink, he shouldn't take the extra part from the 1/4 to the 1/3. I'm talking about a big percentage. It's between 25% and 33.3%. At the end of the day, it's going to be a good another 8.3%, 3.3%. Yeah. Rabbi says, 1 second. He didn't water it only because it didn't need, not because he didn't do it. He was willing to do it, he just didn't need to do it. So says, why don't we say Lemar of Yosef says like Rabbanan, which means Rav Yosef holds like the Rabbanan, that at the end of the day, the giving over of the money of the tztalit is not considered the tztalit itself. And Rabbi holds like Rashbag, right? Meaning the exact same machloket to do with the rain and the sharecropper is to do with the tztalit. Yeah, at the end of the day, if you're going to tell me that he needed the rain, I gave you the water instead of the rain. right? I give you the water. I give you the rain instead of the water. Right? It's true that the rain doesn't come from me. It's Hashem that opens up the beres. Right? He opens up the faucet. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you got the water. That means you got everything. I don't need to give it to you. Right? So that's the question. So says the Gemara, but is it logical? Hakaimalan we paskin hilchata kavate de Rabba. The halacha is actually like Rabba. Ubeha, meaning every time that the Rabba and Rav Yosef, we paskin like Rabba with a hey. Ubeha, and in this case, en halacha kerashbag. The halacha is not like Rashbag. Meaning like this. If you have a machloket between Chachamim and Rashbag, we paskin like Chachamim. If you have machloket Rabba and Rav Yosef, we paskin like Rabba. So we cannot say by default that Rabba holds like Rashbag. Because if we hold paskin like Rabba, and we do not paskin like Rashbag, we paskin like Chachamim, so I cannot say that Rav Yosef is like Chachamim, and Rabba with a hey is like Rashbag. Because then I have a stira, and how do we paskin? Because we paskin like Rabba, not like Rav Yosef, but we paskin like Chachamim, and not like Rashbag. So I cannot say Rabba is like Rashbag. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work there. So says the Gemara, but you're right. Ela leolam, really be'emet, k'Rabbanan. Really be'emet, also Rabba, and also Rav Yosef hold like Rabbanan, not like Rashbag. Rav Yosef holds like Rabbanan, and Rabba is going to tell you, Ana da'amni, I also like Rabbanan. When do the rabbis say over there by the sleep, by the coat? Ela de letzara kamechaven. There, he wanted her to make her suffer. He comes and he tells her, I want you to give me back my jacket. Go start looking for it. Yeah? But in our case, again, he wants to gain. He wants to gain money. Right? So therefore, it's nothing to do with one another. Here, you don't have to gain. Why? Because it rained. So you don't need anything else. Again, the exact same answer that we answered before, right? To do with the harvacha, to do with the kunam, is the exact same answer to do with right now also as well. So Tzran Hata, we also learned over there in the Mishnah. This is to do with Batei Arechoma. Okay, remember the Batei Arechoma, the halacha is that you have a city, right, that has a walled city. Remember, normally what happens is that when you buy a property, a field, inside of a, let's say, you buy a property. What happens is that when you're going to buy a property, right, you buy it, right, and then what happens is that you're able to buy it back, but basically you have until Yovel, and then Yovel, it comes back to you. What about Batei Arechoma? Batei Arechoma, the halacha is you have 1 year to buy it back. After that 1 year that you do not buy it back, Kaddish. Batei Arechoma, right, houses in a walled city. You have one year to buy it back. After that 1 year, Kaddish. It never goes back to you, not even Yovel. You lost it completely. So says the halacha. But Ishona at the beginning, Hayanitzman, Yom Shne, right? Basically what happened is the one that bought the house, he was smart. You know what he used to do? He used to buy the house and disappear. Why would he disappear? Right? Why? Because that way, even if the guy gets some money, he can't buy it back from him. He's not around. Yeah? Yom Shnemasar, right? Chodesh. Right? And then all of a sudden, Yom Shnemasar Chodesh, in order that you couldn't find him, right? So it will always stay by him. So Hillel Zaken saw what was happening. So he went and he said against these tricksters, you know what? Right? If he cannot find him, throw the money lelishka. He breaks the door, and he goes inside. Whenever the other guy wants to come, he comes and he takes his money. Right? So Hillel Zaken made a takana. He said the takana was, this guy's going to be a smart aleck. I'm going to show him exactly what it is. Yeah, no problem. Put the money down, break the door down, you go inside your house. Whenever the guy wants to come collect his money, you can collect his money. But you bought your house back. You got your house back. Yeah, that's what he says. The Amar Rava says, from the takana of Hillel Zaken, we're going to learn what happens when a person comes and he says that he's going to get divorced on condition that she gives him the 200 zuz and she gave it to me, right? If he comes and he receives it, megureshet, she's going to be megureshet. Al korcho, but if it's going to be against his will, ena megureshet. She's not going to be megureshet. So he comes and he says, that means even though she gave him the money, she wasn't mekayim the t'nai, because the t'nai is that she has to be maknelo the money. And at the end, she was not maknelo the money. So he says right? From the fact that he then had to make a special takana, that netina bal kurchach is considered netina. So from here we learn that netina against your will is not considered netina. Meaning if I force you to take something, it's not considered that I gave it to you, because I had to force you to accept it. Hillel HaZaken had to make a special takana that I'm forcing to give you the money, now it's yours. But if it wasn't that special takana, it wouldn't have lasted at all.